Hey guys, what's going on? Thanks for checking out Chicago Humanities Tapes. We are the audio version of Chicago Humanities, whose spring and fall festivals have been running for 35 years. I'm Alisa Rosenthal, and I'm here to bring you the best of our live chats direct from the festival circuit, plus exclusive interviews coming direct from our studio to you. Today is the best of both worlds. New Yorker cartoonist Asher Perlman is in the house to chat with me on the inner workings of comedy writing for cartoons and his Chicago improv background. And then we have some great nuggets of wisdom with a short selection from our recent live event with graphic novelist and founder of the Afro-Punk Music Festival, James Spooner, joined by artist Damon Locks for some insight into Spooner's new book, Black Punk Now, and his process making the graphic memoir, The High Desert. Asher Perlman is a writer-performer for The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, and his new compilation of New Yorker cartoons, Well, This Is Me, is available now. Asher Perlman, welcome to Chicago Humanities Tapes.
Thank you so much for having me. Truly, I'm honored to be here.
I read your book over the weekend, and I loved it. It was a really cool experience of, it reminded me of being a kid and sitting down with a book of single panel cartoons, which is something I just really haven't thought about a lot, like looking at a whole book in that way. How would you describe this book?
Well, I mean, honestly, it makes my day that's what it reminded you of, because I grew up with this kind of cartoon book in my house. And I mean, back then, I was a kid of the 90s, so we're talking The Far Side, but also Charles Addams. And I just love single panel cartoons and also cartoons in general. So, this book is pretty straightforward. It's a compilation of single panel cartoons. I also have a narrative through line, I guess, for lack of a better word. So I break it up with some semi-autobiographical, even that might be overstating it, but narrative pieces, I call them pieces throughout. And, it's a pretty straightforward compilation. And, it's kind of an homage to the books I grew up on. I mean, it's actually up to and including the point that it's published by Andrews McMeel, which is the publisher who made Calvin and Hobbes and Foxtrot, like all these great comics that I grew up on. So, that was a long answer to a simple question, but I hope there's an answer in there somewhere.
You hit the nail on the head. I was specifically going to say The Far Side, and in talking to some other friends about trying to reminisce about what it was like being a kid of the 90s and getting into cartoons, I was like, because we all went to the library and got out big stacks of the Far Side books, right? And some of my other friends were like, no. But I love the Far Side and Foxtrot, and I can tell that you care about comics and cartoons so deeply, but melding your voice and your sense of humor with the New Yorker. Can you speak a little bit to how you get that tone just right?
Yeah, I mean, I hope that I do get it right. I think that's sort of an ongoing struggle that everyone goes through. One of the pieces of advice that I got very early on, I'm not sure if you know Ellis Rosen, but he's a really great New Yorker cartoonist. And for some reason, he agreed to get coffee with me when I was first starting out. So I graciously took advantage of him. But one of the pieces of advice he gave me, I showed him one of my early batches. And he said, these are fine. Like, these are good. They're funny, whatever. But it feels like you're trying to make a New Yorker cartoon rather than making an Asher cartoon that could work in the New Yorker. And I think in that moment, it was kind of a wake up call, because that was exactly what I was trying to do. I was basically I was like ChatGPT. I fed all of the cartoons that I liked into myself, and I was like, produce something like that. And then I made this batch, and it was just like, it wasn't good. Like, it just felt, derivative, uninspired, unoriginal, whatever. And so after that, I started trying to think more in terms of what I thought was funny. And then, of course, there's sort of a band of acceptable cartoons that, fit within the magazine's voice, and you have to hit that. But once I started focusing more on making stuff that I actually personally liked, that was when things really clicked. And that was when I started selling cartoons too. I was rejected until I started doing that. So yeah, I think it's an ongoing struggle. I think it's something that a lot of new cartoonists struggle with too, because you don't want to pitch something that's so so wildly unlike anything they've ever seen that they're like, what? Do you even read the magazine? but at the same time, you don't want to give them something they already have because they already have that. And so yeah, that's sort of my journey with that.
Yeah, I think that makes a ton of sense because I've noticed with your, and now forgive me, is a little like vocab check. Cartoons, comics, what's the difference? Is there a difference?
Oh, this is a good question. I mean, yeah, I come from I come from a sketch and improv background, and I know that there's like this obsession with calling them sketches instead of skits. I don't know if that's. I say cartoons. I think people would say single panel gag cartoon is sort of the long form term, but I think if you called it a comic, I don't think that's like offensive or
not like your little skit.
yeah, it doesn't feel like that. Although okay, all your angry listeners write in and tell me I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure you can say either. I personally say cartoon.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. I noticed that there's like a specific sense of humor that started to come out as I was working through your book, that this like pile on joke structure that I feel like I haven't seen in a single panel comic of or oh my gosh, cartoon.
How dare you? No, that's good.
But because I would love to give our listeners a couple of examples of your cartoons, much like people just love when you recount improv. Do you mind if I explain a couple of your cartoons?
I would love it. I would love it. I mean, they say this is how cartoons should be enjoyed, by described over the radio. So yes, please.
Their most popular medium, audio. So obviously the cover of your book, the title of your book. Actually, can you explain this gag better than I could? Definitely.
Yes. Well, I mean, I'd rather have you do it, but I'll give it a shot. Basically, it's a small man. It's a normal sized man walking down the street with a woman saying the classic phrase, "Well, this is me," which is something you say when you've arrived home. But instead of a home, it's a large version of that man. And yeah, that was the original cartoon, and then I made it the title of the book because. I mean, maybe this is obvious, but it just serves as a double meaning because, in a sense, the contents of the book is me or are me. So, anyways, yeah, that's the cover. That's the cover.
It's great. It just the joke lands so well, and then you had a joke go viral with the an airplane, and this is your captain speaking, and this is your captain singing. It's very funny, and it looks like it's like gone viral on TikTok. People have gotten pilots to do this.
Yeah, it's really, someone said that to me. It's so funny to watch these things take on a life of their own. That was one of my favorite ones to sell because we pitched them to an editor, and then she pitches them to David Remnick, who is the editor-in-chief of the New Yorker magazine. And she said that when she pitched that to him, she had to sing it. So in some ways it feels like I like pranked her into doing it. But I'm really glad that one got in.
Oh, that's great. And then, okay, so one that I'd really like to read, because this is the one that like stopped me in my tracks. I believe they're Olympics judges, each holding up a scorecard. Is it okay if I read what's on like the third scorecard?
Yes, of course.
Okay, great. Because I think this like really sums up the sense of humor to this book perfectly. So we've got a panel of 3 judges. One is holding up a 7-8. One is holding up an 8-1. And then the third judge is holding up a sign with large, long text that says, "I accidentally tripped the judge in the bathroom and killed him. I panicked, put on his clothes, and here I am. I'm so scared. It's crazy how one day can change your life." And it's just like the like pummel of punches this joke just like assaults you with. It's what like totally sold me on the rest of the book. It's just like such a fun and like unique sense of humor.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think that technically counts as a novella, but I just tried to squeeze it into a single panel card. I actually never heard that out loud before. And as you were reading it, it occurred to me that it implies that there's like a costume to be an Olympics judge that like he had to wear, like he wouldn't have been able to get in to the judging panel if he wasn't wearing this guy's exact clothes.
Yep, they're all in matching white shirts and ties.
That's right. I guess that.
And I think something I'm really interested in is how you're able to, or like what a little bit of inside baseball here, what the joke writing or like the kind of creative processes of getting a whole story across in a single panel.
I mean, that is the challenge. I mean, in comedy in general, not to like analyze comedy, because I know that that's not necessarily fun, but I mean, in comedy in general, it's all about economy and doing things as quickly as you possibly can, which is ironic that I said that twice because it took twice as long as I needed to. But that is sort of the goal of all comedy. And so when you're writing, a more traditional joke, one exercise you can do is just go through and see like, hey, can I rewrite the same joke but remove two words and keep the meaning? And the tighter it is, the better it is. And so with gag cartoons like this, I do the same thing. Like when I brainstorm joke ideas, oftentimes the original thing I brainstorm is this kind of long, clunky caption, and then it goes through maybe 10 iterations to make it as tight as possible. But the thing that distinguishes this from joke writing for maybe stand up, monologue jokes, whatever, is that you have this other element, which is the image, and then that allows you to ideally condense it even more. Someone told me that I would credit them, but I can't remember who, but someone said basically you don't want any cartoon to work without the caption or the picture. It has to be the two of them in conversation with one another. And once in a while, I'll write a joke where the caption is it's basically like a tweet. And then I sort of have to reevaluate and say, okay, well, this isn't really a cartoon. It's just, and sometimes I'll still do it. I'll just like draw two people walking down the street and one of them saying it. But ideally, you want to go back and find a way to have the image contribute something which allows you to shorten the caption too. Now, all of this, of course, is ironic too, because you just read one of the longest captions of all time, and that's why I clearly like long captions also. But yeah, if it's long, you want it to be deliberately long.
So I think I had a total misconception about how New Yorker cartoons work, and I assumed that there were artists and there were writers. But I'm now learning that a lot of times they're one and the same.
I don't want to speak on behalf of the entire community, but as far as I know, I really do. I think the vast majority are artists who do the whole thing themselves. I do know there are some teams that work together, but I think that's far and away the exception. And there's, even if you do it for the most part yourself, some people will collaborate with other comedy writers. Like I've done a few collaborations, so you're not like hemmed into one version of it.
That makes sense. It takes a village. Were you always interested in drawing? Was this something that you developed to service the jokes?
I always loved drawing. My dad is an artist, and so I was exposed to it very early. And he gave me, at one point he actually gave us art lessons, me and my brothers. So I always loved it. And then I think as I got older, I just kind of lost an interest in it. And then as I kept getting older, I developed a new interest in it. And I started doodling again, maybe in my mid-20s. And then it honestly wasn't really until the pandemic hit, because I do a lot of live shows, and when the pandemic hit, all of a sudden those were unavailable to me, and so I sort of had to think of something else that I could do that was a creative outlet that didn't require me to leave my house. And that was when I really started learning to draw again in any real serious way. And I would say that my art is not good. I think it's bad, but I had to learn how to do it at least well enough to get the idea across. So I think I had to get a lot better at it when it came time to actually start submitting.
And I think that makes sense too, for you had this goal in mind and you knew you had the skill. I think about this all the time with music or with singing. It's like you're born with a natural level of ability or not. I guess that's any skill, but knowing that you had an interest in the skill and a working knowledge of it, and you can, like any muscle, it can get stronger. You can practice. I think your art looks great, Asher. You did a very good job.
Agree to disagree with, thank you.
So remind me, are you from the Chicagoland area? Where are you from?
I was born in Seattle, but then raised in Wisconsin, and then I came down to Chicago after college to pursue sketch and improv, and then I've been in New York for 7 years now.
Yeah, so this is a real comedy trajectory for sure.
Yeah, it is.
What were you doing in Chicago?
Well, I moved to Chicago to pursue the performing at the Second City because that was the comedy theater I'd heard of. And once I got there, I think like a lot of people who moved to Chicago to do sketch and improv, you learn about all the other theaters. And then I just sort of became obsessed and lived in that world for, I think it was almost 10 years to the day that I was there. But yeah, I pursued I did the Second City. I did their touring company and one of the resident stages, and I performed at IO, which is amazing. And I think it's sort of like full on back now, because I know during the pandemic it kind of suffered a bit. But yeah, I did all I mean, basically any theater that would have me, I performed at. So Comedy Sports, The Annoyance, yeah.
Yeah, and I think there isn't really like, obviously Second City is the biggest name, but there isn't really a hierarchy to the schools or the classes or the shows. It's just, if you want to be doing it, grab a class, grab 4 other friends with Friday nights free. And it's a low barrier to entry.
Yeah, super low. I think from what I understand, back in the day, there was a little bit more delineation between the schools. Like you were either an IO person or a Second City person. By the time I got there, and this was like the early 2010s, I guess. I feel like kind of everyone was taking classes at all the places and performing at all of them. And yeah, I don't think that there was really that tribalism that there sort of was back in the day. I mean, I remember wanting to perform a Second City in part because I knew what they were going into it, and so it was sort of this golden standard, but also because it was the one that paid you a living wage, and I wanted to perform full time. So, yeah, I'll always be grateful to them for that.
Yeah, I am endlessly envious that your work does not involve listening to audio, in that I imagine you can have background music or podcasts or something on as you're working. Do you have something that kind of helps your creative process or gets you in the zone that you like listening to?
I always have something going. I never work in silence, which is, I don't know, maybe that's a bad thing. But when I'm brainstorming in the morning, I usually put on something super, like atmospheric, like lo-fi beats or Sigur Rós, or like something to need my brain more. But that's just to come up with ideas. And then once I have the ideas and I'm just drawing them out, then I can practically watch a full movie while I do that. When I was working on this book, I think I rewatched Succession like 1.5 times or something.
In the mindset of you have like one character that pops up a lot, which is the guy with the mustache.
Yes, Eugene. Yeah.
What he wants his life to look like.
Exactly. But yeah, no, I love putting on movies, TV shows, anything that like trashy reality shows are great to draw through because you can sort of be paying half attention to them. But
yeah. I noticed that you have a Patreon page and you do office hours, which I thought was really interesting and really a cool way to build community. What gave you the idea to start doing that, and how's it going?
I love doing office hours. I'm so glad you saw that. Honestly, that was born from me thinking about what was something I would have liked to exist when I was first starting out that didn't. And so a lot of my patrons, not all of them, but a lot of them are cartoonists themselves or some sort of artists of some kind. And some of them want to do TV writing, which I also do. So I just wanted to create a space. I mean, it sounds corny, but I wanted to create a space where people could drop in and share their work and get advice and just talk about this industry, because it's so, every aspect of this industry that I'm a part of, it's so opaque and really hard to know what's going on inside it and how to break into it. And I feel like any way to demystify that is a good thing. So yeah, that was kind of the impetus for that. And it's really fun. It's turned into, like you said, I mean, it actually sort of turned into more of a community thing. I think I originally thought it was going to be just me and one person at a time, seeking advice about something specific. And then more than one person would show up at once, and then we'd all sort of talk together and bat around ideas. And it's been really, it's been really cool.
That's awesome to hear. I feel like that's one of the big challenges with writing, and I imagine it's similar to drawing, is that it's pretty solitary. And when you're trying to make funny things, like, you just need other people.
Yeah, I mean, that is sort of one of the unique challenges to writing and drawing as opposed to performing. I mean, coming up in improv, like, I mean, literally within half a second, I mean, however long that it takes for the sound to reach the audience and that sound to reach you, that's how long it takes for you to know whether or not it works. So I think I was really accustomed to that, and really, I mean, I really craved that. And then obviously when you're drawing something, you just don't know. I mean, you can send it out to someone and say, "Hey, does this work?" But it's not really the same. And then I think the book is obviously the most heightened example of that, because the majority of this is stuff that I haven't even put online. So I'm sort of just, hoping people like it. But I was thinking, when I was writing it, or making it, drawing it and writing it, I was thinking about how challenging it would be to be a novelist, or one of those novelists who takes 10 years to craft their entire. And I was like, oh my God, you just wouldn't know for that long whether or not a single person liked it. And I mean, it sounds freeing in a way, because you kind of have to only think about what do you like, but also challenging because you can only think about what you like.
Yeah, you're like John Steinbeck. Do I have a new art form for you? It's the single panel cartoon. Anyways, so I'm curious, do you have other cartoonists or graphic novelists that you're into right now, or that have kind of caught your attention that you'd recommend?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I mean, the people that I'm the most tickled by and inspired by are my friends who are also New Yorker cartoonists right now. I don't want to list them because I'm going to forget some, but the thing I would recommend, if you're into this kind of thing, is just go to any cartoonist's Instagram page and see who they're following. And that's what I did. And and then all of a sudden my feed was filled with people who were doing really cool stuff. So, I mean, there's the greats. Like, I mean, I already mentioned, like, Gary Larson and Charles Adams and all those guys, and they're all really good. And you can go back and enjoy all the greats. But one thing, it's, we all sort of know this, but comedy ages like milk, and sometimes the best stuff is the current stuff. And I really do think that the current crop of cartoonists is just really, really, really good.
Yeah. There's a lot to check out. Okay. Just a couple more questions. I'm always really interested in motivation. How do we get it? How do we keep it? Do you have any tips for getting started? If there's a creative project you want to make, getting started, and then also, vitally, how to finish it. Having just made a book, maybe this resonates.
Yeah, no, it does. It does. I feel like this is the eternal struggle. I mean, I'll give you my advice, and I think it's not really, it's going to sound kind of just like common advice that everyone would give, but it really, for me at least, it's I think it's twofold. One is you just have to do it. I mean, that's sort of the obvious answer. And I think the maybe more helpful answer is, rather than relying on willpower to get something out there, I'm a big creature of habit, and I'm a huge proponent of daily creative practices that just get you making something every day. And so I think for everyone it'll be something different. For me, I read The Artist's Way and fell in love with morning pages, and I've done them every day for like 7 years now or something. But again, I think it'll be different for everyone. But I think finding something that you can do every day, even if it's just 10 minutes, I really do think that's the difference, because you can spend your whole life waiting for inspiration. Maybe it'll hit, and that'll be awesome. But I think for the most part, it doesn't. And you just have to create these habits that generate ideas for you. And then as far as finishing goes, I think that part is kind of willpower. I mean, you just sort of have to push through, and one of the hardest parts is deciding when it's done. I mean, I just drew, 200 cartoons for this, and all of them, I think if you gave me another 5 minutes, I would find something I would change. But I think working the muscle of being able to put the pen down and saying this is the finished product. I think that just takes practice.
Yeah, I mean, I think getting creative work done is like so unglamorous, but
it really is,
and it's what like creates the structure for you to get to do the fun thing. I mean, I get podcasts out every 2 weeks because I put on my calendar that it's getting published in 2 weeks. So
you have to, yeah, and you're accountable to someone else. I think that's the other thing that can be really helpful. Is I have some friends who are also cartoonists, and we send our batches every week because you submit on a weekly cadence. And so we send our batches every week. And I think without that, it would be harder to find the motivation to do it. But I'm like, well, they're sending me theirs. I've got to send something. So yeah, finding people to be accountable to, institutions to be accountable to, timelines that you can't just, unilaterally decide to not follow. Yeah, that's okay. I'm adding that. That's also good advice.
And I feel like submissions are good to just give you a deadline, even if it's a made up deadline. But
yeah.
Anyways, this is a thought near and dear to my heart. Last question. You will be back in Chicago in a couple of weeks for your book launch at Second City, which we are excited for. What are you looking forward to hitting up when you're in Chicago?
Oh my God. I'm doing a full tour of my old haunts. I'm going to perform with the Improvised Shakespeare Company, which is one of my favorite groups to perform with. That's at I.O. I'm going to perform with the Armando Diaz Experience. That's also at I.O. I'm definitely going to go to Second City and play the set, and also just see a lot of my friends. I think I'm doing some press while I'm there. I'll be like on WGN radio, which feels kind of like, it's just cool. It's like, yeah, so I'm excited to do all that. But I also just I'm excited to see everybody. I haven't been back in a long time, and the Chicago comedy community is. I really don't think I'm being. I don't think I'm exact. It's the coolest. It's so great. I love all those people, and I love the community. So I'm just excited to see people and see what's changed, and just plug back into it. I think I'm really excited.
That's perfect. Asher Perlman, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It was my treat.
But eventually, I had this urge to tell stories again. And when I met my partner, Lisa, she introduced me to memoir comics, and I read a few of them, and it just clicked. It was like hearing the Ramones for the first time, and you're like, oh, I could do that. I could be in a band, right?
And now, this is a selection from James Spooner with Damon Locks, live at Chicago's historic Ramova Theatre in the Bridgeport neighborhood for May 2024.
As Afropunk was growing, we were still connecting on these ways, and we would still have really beautiful conversations on the stoop until 3:00 in the morning about race and belonging and place from our different perspectives, and it was a beautiful thing. And as it grew and changed, the festival kind of took on its own character and went a different direction, where then you had to step away from it and find a new way of kind of addressing these questions. So if I could have this correct, some time passed, vegan tattooing kind of came into your life, and then you found high desert.
Yeah, so basically, when I left Afropunk, I was heartbroken. It had grown and took on there were a lot of compromises that I had to make that I was not comfortable with, and I had a partner who had his eyes on a much bigger prize. So I couldn't battle it anymore, and I left, and that was very difficult because I wasn't just leaving behind, this scene or this film or whatever. I was leaving behind people that I knew still very much counted on these events that we were doing. Whatever. It was just an opportunity to get together because I think as someone who's not a musician, who's always been looking at the stage, I'm actually more interested in the crowd than what's on the stage. Like, of course I love the music, but sometimes shows feel like an excuse for the scene to get together. So all of that was going away, and I moved to California because I just could. It was like I was running, I had to hide my head, and so I ended up becoming a tattooer. I just was doing that, and it fulfilled that kind of artistic itch for a while, but eventually I had this urge to tell stories again, and when I met my partner, Lisa, she introduced me to memoir comics, and I read a few of them, and it just clicked. It was like hearing the Ramones for the first time, and you're like, oh, I could do that. I could be in a band, right? like I read these comics, and I was like, oh, this is like making a movie, but like there's no gatekeepers, right? Because I could draw, I could do all of the things, So I just went in, and like learning on the job.
Was High Desert also a solo collaborative effort?
Yes and no. So I wrote the script. My partner, Lisa, edited the fuck out of it, and like many fights, many tears on my side. Like she really, she's got a master's in literature. I didn't go to college at all. So, she definitely is like, broke down my ego. Like, who do you think you are that you can just like write a novel? Once I had the script, then I started drawing shitty thumbnails, but my style of drawing, when you see the drawings, you'll see that they're like, fairly realistic in the grand scheme of cartooning. And one thing that anyone who gets to cartooning or attempts at cartooning is like, how do you make the same character look the same over and over again from every angle? And it's like so difficult, right? I cast the entire book. So, if you came in for a tattoo, I'd be like thinking like, I think you could be, you could be
Damon
like,
in this.
I might have been like, oh, you might be like Ryan or whatever, and then I would say like, hey, would you pose for like, I need 13 pictures, and for like the main character, he lived in San Diego. I went down there 2 different times, and I probably spent 8 hours with him. I have 10,000 photos of this kid, because we went through the book and just went through the script, shot it a million times, and then I did all these collages, and it's a long-ass dumb process that I'm sure there's a better way of doing it, but it's the way that I do it. So it was collaborative in that way, and then the way of like my partner kicking my ass. But ultimately, it is a solo. It's a lot of time alone on the iPad. The first time that I went to a zine fest, I was like, holy shit, this is like one giant merch table. This is like going to a show with all the kids but no bands. And I love it. Like the zine community, those nerds are my nerds. Like those are my people. And the comics, like, so there's 2 different kind of comics worlds. There's like Comic-Con, where people like kind of do a lot of cosplay and like are into superheroes and stuff. And then there's like comics arts fairs that are more memoir, independent, queer, like it's all the stuff that isn't superheroes. Those people are my people as well. So it was, and super inviting, Now, within those communities, there are like definitely black folks, and you often see them congregating, or sharing tables, or it's just like high school, like all the black folks are sitting at that table, And also very excited and accommodating. So like when The High Desert came out, I was super nervous because it's like, I never read comics, you know? So I'm just like, hi, I got a book, you know? And it was just like, yo, coming right in. Like, and then within that, so you've got the comics world, then you've got the comics world, then you've got the comics arts world, then you've got the black comic creators, and then you have the black punk comic creators. And there's like 7 of us, you know? 3 of them are in this book. One of them is a Chicago local, Bianca Eunice. And thank you guys so much for coming. I really thought it was going to be 12 people. I really appreciate it.
James Spooner, ladies and gentlemen.
And Damon Locks, thank you.
That was James Spooner with Damon Locks at the Ramova Theatre in spring 2024. Before that, you heard Asher Perlman chatting with myself from the Chicago Humanities Tapes studio in May 2024. Chicago Humanities Tapes is produced and hosted by me, Alisa Rosenthal, with the Chicago Humanities team to thank for excellent programming and production of the live events. Head to chicagohumanities.org for more information on how to catch your favorite speaker live the next time they're in town. New episodes of Chicago Humanities Tapes drop first thing every other Tuesday morning wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to click subscribe so you'll be the first to know when new episodes air. While you're there, give us a rating, share with your friends, and check out our killer backlog of programs. All of this helps us bring more great programs straight to you. We'll be back in 2 weeks with a brand new episode. But in the meantime, stay human.
You're pairing this with another one, right?
Yeah, I'm going to pair it with a graphic memoirist named James Spooner. He founded the Afropunk Music Festival.
Yeah, no, that sounds awesome. I love being the lame side of that spectrum.